So a lot of people ask me, if Jesus of Nazareth was such a profound figure in history, shouldn't I read about him in accounts outside the biblical text? Surely if he was just such a great rebellious teacher and leader of a religion that grew in his name, I should read about him outside the Bible. Well, first of all, you got to remember that the Bible isn't just one holy book that was written by one conspiring religious zealot. It's a collection of different historical accounts that, in the case of the New Testament, survive 2,000 years to this day. And we have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We have James, Jude, Peter, and Paul. 8 separate writers of accounts about Jesus that survive 2,000 years later. That in and of itself is really compelling evidence when you compare apples to apples on ancient texts that survive to this day. But in addition, we do have extra biblical accounts of Jesus Christ. We have numerous historical records of Jesus Christ, many more than the Caesar of the time that lived contemporaneously with Jesus Christ. I'll give you some examples. We have Tacitus, Pliny, Josephus, Lucian, Suetonius. They go on and on. And I just thought I'd just read a few of these to you because for me as a lawyer, this was really compelling evidence for the truth of Jesus of Nazareth. Of course, this doesn't mean that he was the Son of God that died for my sins and rose again to conquer death on my behalf. I'm just talking about the incredible man, Jesus of Nazareth, who walked in the land of Judea about 2,000 years ago as a great teacher, a great rabbi, died a horrible death on a Roman cross just outside Jerusalem. I'll give you a couple of these. I grabbed Tacitus. Tacitus was a great historian of ancient Rome. And if you know your history, in about 64 AD, so about 30 years after Jesus Christ, Nero, emperor of the time, pretty crazy guy, he torched Rome, basically. 3/4 of Rome was burning. And the idea here was that Nero did it himself because he wanted to rebuild Rome in his own image. And here's what Tacitus writes about this time. Because see, what happened was Nero started a rumor that it was the Christians that started the fire. He wanted to shift the blame. Here's Tacitus from 64 AD. Consequently, to get rid of the report, Nero fastened the guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for their abominations, called Christians by the populace. Christus, or Christ, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our procurators, Pontius Pilatus. And a most mischievous superstition, thus checked for the moment, again broke out not only in Judea, the first source of the evil, but even in Rome, where all things hideous and shameful from every part of the world find their center and become popular. Accordingly, an arrest was first made of all who pleaded guilty, and then upon their information an immense multitude was convicted, not so much of the crime of firing the city, but as hatred against mankind. Mockery of every sort was added to their deaths. Covered with the skins of beasts, they were torn by dogs and perished, or were nailed to crosses, or were doomed to the flames and burnt to serve as nightly illumination when daylight had expired. You see, Nero had these gardens around ancient Rome, and he would actually use human torches at night to light his gardens, and he would use Christians. But do you see what Tacitus is doing here? Tacitus, as a historian, is giving us all sorts of information about Christus, Christ, about a religion that started in his name, about the spread of Christianity 30 years later in Rome, about Jesus dying under Tiberius at the hands of Pontius Pilate. Do you see how powerful this evidence is just in this one case? You see, as a lawyer, if I get an adverse witness to turn testimony for me on the stand, that's really powerful evidence. Do you understand? You see, if I put my own witness on the stand, of course they're going to turn testimony for me. I've prepped them. They're there on my behalf. But if an adverse witness is on the stand, promoting and supporting all sorts of facts that go towards my case, in this case, Christ dying under Tiberius at the hands of Pontius Pilate, a religion growing in his name 30 years later throughout the Roman Empire, that's huge and compelling evidence for my side of the story.